Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with my newest rant video, What I Don't Like About Persona 4 Golden. And this will probably have just some random scenes in the background because I didn't really know what to put in the background for this. But anyway, so before anyone says anything, let me make it clear, I do actually like this game. A lot. But there were certain things that kind of brought it down for me. And I just kind of wanted to make a video about those things. And just so everyone knows, if you're not familiar with my rant videos, this video will be filled with spoilers. So now that that's out of the way, let's just kind of hop right in. So first, one of my biggest problems are the dungeons. I just kind of hated everything about going into the TV world. First, all of the dungeons are 10 levels. If your party gets wiped out, then you have to restart from the very bottom. And I'm one of those people that will like completely scour each floor to get whatever I have to get, and so if you die in that situation, it really sucks. All of the dungeons more or less look the same, but with different wallpaper, and they're kind of devoid on story content. Like I wish they'd use them to tell a story. Like, I saw a scene from one of the Persona 4 animes where you're in, like, I believe it's Adachi's TV world, and, like, there's, like, a ruined apartment building in there that I think it's supposed to be his building or something, I don't know, and you, like, look through the window and you, like, either learn how he got his powers or you see his murder of, like, Saki, and it's like, I would have loved to have seen stuff like that in all of the characters' TV worlds. I think that would have made them a lot more interesting. We could have learned more about the characters that were being trapped, and, you know, and it was just kind of disappointing that they didn't do anything like that, and it just made getting through them even more of a slog. And, like, for me, what I would do is basically, because, you know, you want to do everything in the TV world all on one visit so you don't have to go back and you can focus on other things. So every time I would go into the TV world, I would first completely redo the past dungeon, the previous dungeon, so that I could get all the quest items. Because I really hated that they always, like, made you get the quest items. Like, you wouldn't get quest items for the last dungeon until after you'd already completed it. So, yeah, and it was I remember it being, like, really hard to keep track of what you needed to get and what you already had. I might be misremembering that, but... So, I would just redo all the floors, completely scouring them, so that way I could get EXP, and also so I could grab, you know... So I could just get the quest items, and I never really had a problem getting them all when I did that. And then I would get all the way up to the top floor and fight the boss, so I could get the special armor or whatever. And of course, because I did this, it meant that if I died, I would be so mad. And then, so after I fight my way all the way up this dungeon and all the way back down and save my game, then I would go do the story dungeon, which is another 10 floors, and yeah, by the end of it, I was just so completely burnt out on the dungeons. And then, kind of tying into that, I don't find combat in this game super fun. And I'm mostly talking about just the normal encounters. Like, thank goodness for that fast forward button, because they just, the encounters in this just got so repetitive. And I was just, like, just attacking until the enemies died, and I don't know. To be fair, that might be, like, every RPG. So, beyond that, I'd say my other biggest problem is the story. And when I say the story, I don't necessarily mean the characters or, like, the social links. I'm talking about the mystery part of the story. I think this was so poorly done. Like, part of it seems like it wasn't even, like, properly finished, because they kept doing the thing with the man in the fog, and I don't feel that ever really made sense, like, who that was supposed to be, because it doesn't really fit with either of the technically throwing people into the TV dudes, like Namatame or Adachi. I think it's supposed to be Adachi, but it just doesn't quite add up. And where do I start with this mystery? So we start like investigating, and then I knew it went into Persona 4 Golden. I already knew who the killer was. That had been spoiled for me. And so I was kind of on the lookout for anything that would like foreshadow this person being the killer. And there's really not much of anything. Like, yeah, there's stuff you can be like, well, technically, like, oh, Saki was being interviewed by the police, so therefore that's foreshadowing. And like, I don't know that I really agree with that. There was just nothing that really caught my attention. And then like, I knew the month where our party would learn who the killer is, and it was like December. And we're like partway through December, and I'm like, when are we learning who the killer is again? Because like, so I went and I looked up the specific date, because it's like, nothing's really happening. Like, it's got to be coming up soon, right? But nothing's going on. So I look it up, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's tomorrow. Like, what on earth is going to happen tomorrow that we're going to find out who the killer is? And the answer is absolutely nothing. We investigate, we find out nothing. We go to a restaurant, and when we step outside for a breath of fresh air, Naoto's just like, hey, who do you think the killer is? And this seems like one of those totally random choices that doesn't matter at all, but it actually does matter. This is your one and only chance, sort of, to identify the killer. If you technically get like 3 guesses or something, but if you don't successfully pick the killer, you get like a game over or a bad ending or something. And it's just like, okay. And one of the biggest flaws, I think, of any murder mystery is when you don't have a lot of suspects. And they give you this big list of characters, so you might initially think there are a lot of suspects, but then you start to realize, okay, well, most of these are social link characters, like the kind of social link characters that you could potentially have just interacted with once, or not even interacted with at all. They have people on this list you can go an entire playthrough not even meeting. Then they have people like your like Kashiwagi, the teacher, or what's her name, Hanako, your classmate, and it's like, well, you don't interact with either of those characters enough, so they're probably not the killer. And of course it's not one of your teammates, because, well, you'd know, like, you've been to their little shadow world, and some of them were targeted by the killer themselves, so it seems pretty unlikely. So really the only 3 believable suspects, the only characters that are important enough that they could possibly be the killer, are Nanako, Dojima, and Adachi. And I gotta say, I really hate that the game will basically not let you pick Nanako or Dojima. Like, if you pick Nanako, it tries to guilt trip you, and it's like, oh, but she's just a helpless little girl, and she's lying sick in a hospital bed, so she can't possibly be the killer. Meanwhile, has the killer done anything while Nanako has been unconscious in the hospital? And, like, there's really no reason a kid couldn't be the killer, because, like, they keep forgetting the whole other world, and, like, the whole subject of, like, your shadow self. Like, it's actually entirely believable that Nanako could have a shadow self that is doing something, or even just that Nanako did something by accident, like she pushed the news lady and she falls into the TV, or something. Like, any one of these things could potentially be the answer, but our characters refuse to even consider it. And then kind of the same thing with Dojima, where it's like, oh, I can't imagine it could possibly be Dojima, because he just loves Nanako so much he'd never hurt her. And I just know this, and it's like, you don't actually. Like, he definitely seems to care about Nanako, but, like, a lot of villains seem to care about people and actually don't. And it could be more complex than that. Like, realistically, Dojima could have plenty of reasons to want to harm Nanako. Like, because his wife died going to pick Nanako up from, like, what, daycare? It could be that Nanako looks like her mother, and looking at her is painful. It could be that Dojima feels guilty that he can't be there for Nanako and thinks it would be better this way. And again, the whole thing with the shadows. Like, Dojima's shadow could easily feel one of those things, but we don't consider it. And also, what kind of drives me crazy about this is the whole logic, well, he would never hurt Nanako, on top of just kind of being like something we can't really know 100%. There's also the fact that the killer's not the one who threw Nanako into the TV world. We literally just learned this. It was Namatame. So, yeah, that doesn't even, that argument doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, you have to basically label Adachi as the killer. And this moon logic that we cling to, where it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense because he's a detective and he wouldn't be considered suspicious. And like, they're basically treating detectives like they have some sort of super invisible power. Cause like yeah, I guess it's not impossible that if you were like, excuse me, ma'am, did you see anyone suspicious here last night? That they might be like internally like, oh, well, Adachi was here, but he's not suspicious. No, I didn't see anyone, sir. Like, yeah, that might happen, but that's really kind of pushing it. Because I feel like there's a high chance if you said, hey, did you see anyone last night? Someone would just bring up everyone they saw, even if so-and-so was a cop. And it's a very weak argument against him that our characters accept way too easily. And then Yukiko is like, oh yeah, you know, he was the last one to see Mayumi Yamano alive, like, right before she went missing, in fact. He was assigned to be her bodyguard. Weird, huh? And it's like, well, Yukiko, you think you could have mentioned that earlier? It's not like we've been looking for clues or anything. And it's just, it's kind of, and again, it's that magical detective superpower that because he's a detective, she just didn't think that it could mean anything. And it's just so ridiculous. So then, like, we're like, oh, where's Adachi right now? He's at the hospital, and he's overseeing Namatame's move, and everyone gets all panicked, and it's like, oh, we have to get to the hospital right away. And it's like, why? Like, you think he's gonna do something? And keep in mind that at this point, we don't actually have any proof he's the killer. Like, not even, like, reasonable doubt or something. Like, we have nothing on him. Our case against him is so paper thin. But they rush off to the hospital. And so what are they doing? They're like, you know what? Let's confront him and make it clear we know he's the killer, even though we have no evidence. And, like, even if you're right that he's a killer who is a cop with a gun and also an adult, and you have no evidence, and your argument is, oh yeah, he's killing people by throwing them into the magic TV world. So, like, what are you planning to do here? Like, even if you're right, you can't do anything. Like, you're not going to be able to convince the cops of this ridiculous story. Also, he's a cop, and again, like, he's an adult, he has a gun. This is just stupid that they're running to the hospital and they're making it clear that they know. Well, know being a very, very loosely used term here, that he's the killer, and it's just, realistically, he shouldn't have gotten caught at all. They just have him, like, panic and then run off and then, like, throw himself into the TV world. And I don't know if he's supposed to, like, be stuck and unable to get out or what. Because it seems kind of crazy to me that he just stays there and doesn't go somewhere else. But I really think it was a mistake to even do that. Like, because he really didn't have any reason to panic. Because, again, they had no proof and they couldn't touch him. Like I think I'd be laughing. Like, what are you gonna do? Tell Dojima that I threw Saki and Miss Yamano into the TV world? Like, I mean, I guess you could technically prove the TV world exists by, like, shoving your hand in it, but, like, try building that case. But yeah, it just seems like an overreaction, and I think it would have been way creepier if they'd had Adachi play it cooler. Like, just continue to feign ignorance until Dojima shows up and everyone's forced to disperse because, you know, you can't make a commotion in the hospital. And then, like, it's just him and the protagonist, and right before the protagonist leaves, Adachi says something in that, like, kind of chilling way he does in the Accomplice ending where you just know in an instant he did it. Like, have a moment like that, and just this knowledge that this person who's so close to you and has so much power is the killer, and there's basically nothing you can do about it. And then, like, you could even have him, like, waiting for you when you get home, and he does, like, Nanako's, you know, welcome home big brother thing, and just kind of hammering it home that he just can gain access to you that easily. And, like, oh, Dojima-san told me to check up on you because he's worried about you and all that. Like, I just think they could have done it so much better. And I hope it doesn't come across again like I hate the game or anything. I really do like it. I plan to play it again. I might play it again on an easier difficulty just because I don't want to do those battles. I just find them so annoying. But so this has been a bit of a randomy type rant video, but that's kind of how my rant videos tend to go. I might do a video like this about Persona 5, because that was another game where I enjoyed certain aspects of it, but there were just certain other aspects that I didn't like. So what did you think? Like, do you agree with some of the points I made? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!